We are beginning in Proverbs chapter 24, verse 3. Through wisdom, a house is built, and by understanding it is established. Now, we have similar language in other places, such as 14 verse 1. The wise woman builds her house, but the foolish pulls it down with her hands. And this has to do with, not literally building a house, but this would be building a life, building your home as opposed to a house. Your home's wherever you are. There doesn't have to be a house involved at all. And building a family, and here's your foundation for your life is going to be wisdom. And of course, in Matthew chapter 7, beginning in verse 24, going from 24 to 27, Jesus speaks of the wise builder. He who hears these sayings of mine and does them is like a wise builder who built his house upon the rock. Well, through wisdom a house is built, and by understanding it is established. Now we go to the next one. By knowledge the rooms are filled with all precious and pleasant riches. And what are those riches? They're not going to be material wealth per se. It's going to be matters of wisdom, matters of good decisions, matters of prudence. It's going to be the benefits of wisdom, because there's a lifetime of benefit, and it builds. As wisdom builds, as the years go by, so too are the benefits. They are collecting up the blessings that are there, and blessings you never knew were there. Things you never even thought of are there until you see them, until they occur to you. You are entirely unaware of them at all. But by knowledge the rooms are filled with treasure. Through wisdom the house is built. And what is the other thing that Jesus says? Those who hear these sayings of mine, and the one who hears these sayings of mine and does not do them, I will liken him to a foolish builder who builds his house on the sand. Well, the sand is not going to stay in place for very long. It's not going to take long until there is rain, there's wind, and everything shifts. But wisdom does not shift. Wisdom never disappoints anyone. It always supplies everything we need through this house, through this life. Now, Proverbs 9:1, wisdom has built her house. She has hewn her 7 pillars. Of course, Psalm 127:1, unless the Lord builds the house, they labor in vain who build it. So with wisdom and with knowledge, this is going to be the Lord involved in this, and His Word being involved in this. And that we don't just build it to our own liking, we are building it to how God describes it. We build it according to His will, is how we build our life. Now, we come to verse 5. 5 and 6 go together as well. A wise man is strong. Yes, a man of knowledge increases strength. Okay, so he grows in wisdom and becomes of greater value to those who are around him. He grows stronger in this. And Proverbs 3 and verse 23, then you will walk safely in your way, and your foot will not stumble. Here is this strength that is there. Of course, in Hebrews chapter 5 and verse 14, it speaks of by reason of use, having their senses exercised to discern both good and evil. So the wise will grow stronger. Now we come to verse 6. And verse 6 applies not just to kings, but it applies to everyone, whether it's a literal war or not a literal war. For by wise counsel you will wage your own war, and in a multitude of counselors there is safety. Now here is a certainty for everyone. There will come a time when you will face a difficulty. You will face a giant of some sort. You will face a problem. You will face temptation. You will be placed into a trial of some sort. By wise counsel you will wage your own war. And knowing that, yes, at this moment there is a trial. And I'm going through that trial. And right now I need wise counselors. At this point in time, I need the wisdom of God to know how to act in this. All right? You will wage your war here. You'll wage your war, and by wise counsel, that's what you get with that being strong in wisdom. That man of knowledge who's increased in strength, there's going to be wise counsel that's going to take you through the problematic times. That's going to take you when you desperately are going to need it. You're going to have it. And if it's missing in the good days, if you're not developing it in the good days, it's going to be missing in the bad. And you won't have it. And don't be dismissive of it, of I'll be clever enough, or I'll be lucky enough, or I will somehow be wise enough, because you can't be. You must prepare for it. You must be. I remember in a teenage class years ago, and I was talking about something. I don't remember what it was. It was some sort of sin. And one of the girls raised her hand and she said, "Do you see any of us involved in that? Like, why are you even telling us about this? Why are we even discussing this? Do you see any of us being involved in that?" And my first thought is, you're not there. You're a child. You're a kid. You haven't faced much of anything yet. There's a lot of things that you have not faced, but you will. You live long enough, and it won't be much longer. You live long enough, you will be faced with it. You will come eye to eye with a temptation. You will come to some sort of problem, something, and you're going to make a decision, and it's going to be forced. You're going to have to make a decision. And here is that wise counsel where you can wage your own war. Now let's talk about preparation for a king, which is what Solomon is doing primarily. Now it's given to all of us, but this book is addressed to his son. Solomon is writing it. He says he is. And now later on, more is added to it. We see that from those that Hezekiah, in the days of Hezekiah, are added to this. But it's still from Solomon. And but for that future king may very well, he's going to be the decision maker. All right, here comes some nation out of nowhere, some powerhouse out of nowhere, and they're now surrounding your city, or they are taking your villages and towns. You're going to have to do something. You have to do something. What do? Some of them would go and they would wage war, and then, depending on who they were, would depend on what happened. If God was behind them, they would be victorious. If he's not behind them, they would be defeated. But others would send money off to another power, lots and lots of money. Can you please cause these people trouble in their home? Can you please go and attack them so they'll leave me? And that was one of the things that was done. And also hiring others to come and help you, or make agreements with others to come and help you. Okay, so what do you do? Because somebody's got to make the decision, and with the king, it's you. You got to make the decision, and your decision will be life or death. And it will be the future of this nation, future of this people. What you do will affect everything going forward. What you do. Is that important? Yes. You can't just take that as a coin toss, or just think that somehow whatever you do, it'll be okay. Or just to think of the people beneath you as expendable. Okay, so as it was with Elisha. You have a king who wants to arrest Elisha. He sends 50 soldiers with their officer over them, and they die. And they die violently, and they die miraculously, and Elisha doesn't even lift a finger. So another 50 and Captain go to do the same thing, because the first ones died by miraculous means. Then this second group, they die. And so what does he do? He sends yet another group. Another group. So you already have 102 men, presumably, 102 men who have died and could not perform what you asked them to do. And they are dying by fire from heaven. How many times are you going to do this? Obviously, you don't care about their lives. It's obvious you don't care. You just want whatever it is that you want, which is at this point Elisha. You want Elisha, and the lives of these men don't matter. Well, wise counsel, you're going to take into consideration your lives, and yes, the lives of others as well. Why not care about the lives of your enemy? Why not? Because I can see that from the teaching of Proverbs, and teaching of Christ doesn't teach anything different. All right, why shouldn't I have pity on the soldiers who have been sent against me? Why shouldn't I have pity for them? Now, obviously, if it comes to war, it comes to war, and there's nothing you can do about that. But it takes wisdom in all of this. Now, we come to verse 7. After looking at this concerning wisdom, built the house with knowledge. The wise man is strong and waging wise, having a wise war by way of counsel. We come to this, verse 7. Wisdom is too lofty for a fool. He couldn't do any of these things. All right, he's not building his house, not to anything that's worthwhile. His life is in shambles. Now, a fool can be in a great-looking palace, but their life is in shambles. And the wisdom is too lofty for a fool. He does not open his mouth in the gate. So he's not one of those counselors you want. And he does not open his mouth in the gate. What does that mean? That means that sensible people don't want him to speak. Sensible people don't care what he has to say, because what he has to say is going to be foolish. It's almost like, okay, I would like to hear what you're going to say because I'm going to do the opposite. That would be of value. I want to listen to what you say so I know that's not where I need to go. Now, there are certain people in my life, people that I know, that if I need some kind of technical help, like concerning something mechanical, concerning something not spiritual, I'll gladly go to them. And I will ask them, how do you fix this? Or what am I doing wrong? Why isn't this working for me? That is great. But with those certain people, I would never, ever ask them the important questions. Spiritual questions. No way. How to be a better father. No way. Because they're either not a good father, aren't a father at all, but are just foolish. How do I solve this particular problem in my life? Not a mechanical problem, but a real problem. How do I solve this problem? I wouldn't go to them, because what they're going to say, if they say anything, what they're going to say is going to be bad advice. And unfortunately, we have a lot of professionals that are that way. Professional psychiatrists and counselors and therapists and the like, who they give really bad advice, extremely bad advice. They are among the fools. It is best that they keep their mouths shut. Wisdom is too lofty for a fool. And one fool doesn't want wisdom, rejects it. and being foolish, you have blinded yourself, don't understand it anyway. I think that's one of the things about Satan. Satan doesn't understand righteousness because he's so wicked. He doesn't understand. He has a cynical view of everybody. I think he has a cynical view of God too. But he has a cynical view of no one could possibly do any good. And no one would make these kind of sacrifices for somebody else, or for obedience to God, or true love for God. He doesn't see that at all. And a fool's not going to give you anything that is going to be of value. Now we come to verse 8. He who plots to do evil will be called a schemer. And the next one goes with it. The devising of fools is sin. Devising of foolishness is sin. And the scoffer is an abomination to men. Okay, so first off, he who plots to do evil, he's called a schemer. Okay, well that's not a good name. All right, let's just go ahead and put that down. That this is the opposite of a wise counselor. It's the opposite. Here you have the fool. Wisdom is too lofty for him. Now, plotting to do evil. Here is the mastermind. Here is the starting point. Here is the one that has instigated and has worked out the means to do some kind of evil. Here is the one doing it, even if they don't do the wicked deed. They are still guilty of it. They are still there. I told you about a fella in high school that I did not like it when he came into the room, because things would begin to turn bad, especially if it were like just a bunch of boys, just a bunch of teenage boys. We're sitting around laughing, we're joking, we're doing the usual stuff, and he comes in and things begin to take a turn. He was an instigator. He was a natural born leader. That is true. And he could just say a few things, and suddenly the boys are thinking, wow, I think we should do that, or we could get away with that, or yeah, let's do that. It's like, what? What happened? What happened to you guys? Are you crazy? He is telling you to go to, and I'll just give you one of the things. One of the things is like you are out of your mind. Of actually, somehow he thought we could go into the National Guard armory and steal weapons out of there. Are you crazy? That will not work, even if you are successful at doing it. What do you think you got? You're going to be on the run for the rest of your life. Well, until they throw you in prison, which won't take too long. How far do you think this is going to go? You think you're just going to be able to show these around to your friends? Do you think you no. This is stupid. And they here comes in this plotter, here comes in this schemer of, we could do this. And, well, no, that's a really bad thing. The devising of foolishness is sin. The very planning of it is sin. Just planning it out. Now, we come to the scoffer. The scoffer is an abomination to men. All right, so the tempter has planted the idea, and you have the scoffer who would scoff at anything wise, the scoffer who would scoff at anything reasonable, is going to follow right along with it, and there's not going to be anything guiltless about this. The one who's conspiring it, the one who's engineering it, the one who's bringing about the means and the plans by which to do something bad, all right, that's no good. Now, with the Nuremberg trials after World War II, you had men in there who they did not lift a finger to kill someone. They didn't do it. They didn't pull a trigger. They didn't release the gas. They didn't pile them up in trains and kill them. They didn't do it at all. They're in their offices in Berlin or at their homes or off in the Austrian Alps. They're off somewhere else, and they are doing the planning. They are doing all the everything that needs to be done to implement it, and they leave it to somebody else to do it. Yet, they're being put on trial. And some of them, they're killed. It is the death penalty. Others are in prison for the rest of their life, and some for years and years, depending on what the judgment was on it. But they did, as far as putting their hands against somebody to kill them, they did not. They didn't dirty their hands in such a way. There's blood on their hands, that's for sure, because they were the ones that had devised what they were going to do and how they were going to do it. Now, we come to verse 10. Verse 10 is going to be connected to verse 6, actually, because verse 6 is very similar. If you faint in the day of adversity, your strength is small. So you have actually 5 and 6, verses 5 and 6, and then 10 are connected. All these are connected because you have a wise man is strong, and then you have that of waging your own war, and now if you faint in the day of adversity. Anyone can do well when there are no problems. That's not an issue. That's not an issue. I personally think I could be absolutely wrong, but I think I could have taken the Titanic across the Atlantic from where it started out in England and all the way to New York if there were no problems. All right, if there were no icebergs. I think I could have done it. I think I just leave it up to others to do their job and basically just make sure everybody's doing their job, and hopefully they're doing their job. I think I could have done it. But what happens when there's an iceberg? Now you have adversity. It's not going right now. Matter of fact, it's going terribly wrong. Now what do you do? Now you've got to do something, and it requires you to do it. If you faint in the day of adversity, imagine this, okay, of a fireman who doesn't want to go to the fire. Well, why are you a fireman? Or a policeman that does not like to be around criminals. Not that you like it, but that's your job. You can't be fearful of it, but that is your job. All right, why are you even in this position? Why are you even in this position? But we go back to the whole idea of there will be a day of adversity for every one of us. It is not going, this God never promised us that we will have nothing but luxury and pleasure and easy days. He never promised that. He promised blessings, and he also promised a trial in this. This is a testing ground. What would be the point of having a testing ground if it's a cakewalk? What would be the point of it? What would be the point of having a place where you are supposed to be inside a pressure cooker if there's no pressure, if there's no cooking, if there's nothing going on? What would be the point of trying to shape a metal object if there is no heat? You're going to have a problem doing that. You're going to have a problem. And we are going to have a day of adversity, and you cannot faint in that day. And someone who has wisdom and has become stronger, someone who has that knowledge and has increased in strength, is someone who can take that day of adversity. It's still a day of adversity. All right, it's not an enjoyable day, but now they know what to do. they can take it. Now they know how to handle it. And here is a thing that everybody needs to know, because we have a generation that seems to be oblivious about reality. All right? You cannot control what life throws at you. You can't do it. You can't control what other people do, what life throws at you, because it can throw it from numerous directions, unexpected, just overnight. You can't control that. But what you can control is your reaction and your response. That's what you can control. The rest is beyond your control. All right? The day of adversity, I have a day of adversity. Is life being unfair to me? I'm sorry, life can be unfair, if you want to call it that. That is going to occur. That will happen. And even the person who is the fair-weathered friend, if you've ever had one of those, the fair-weathered friend who, when everything's good, everything's jolly, everything's just fun, they're there. But the first bit of problems, they leave for someone who doesn't have problems at the moment. Even for them, they're going to face a day of adversity. Even for them, as much as they don't want, as much as they just want fun right now, there's going to be a day when it's not going to be so fun. There's going to be a day when there are just problems mounting on problems on problems on problems. Now, the idea is that knowing what to do when there are problems. Your strength is small. We go to Matthew chapter 13, verses 20 and 21, and Jesus speaks of the stony ground and the seed that was sown on the stony ground. Stony ground doesn't have a whole lot of depth of earth. The seed can begin to grow. It does. It grows. But once you have the sun, the heat of the sun hitting it, well, because there's not much earth, the roots are just can't go very far, and the plant just withers away. What the seed was growing now withers away. There's not enough soil there. And that Jesus describes that as a person that when persecutions, when problems, when adversity comes, because of the faith, well, faith dies in them. Their faith in Christ just vanishes, and they go right back out into the world. Now, we come to verse 11 and verse 12. These go together. Deliver those who are drawn toward death, and hold back those who are stumbling to slaughter. Okay, hold back those stumbling to slaughter. All right, now this is one of those where deliver those who are drawn toward death. So what exactly does that mean? Well, the next part of this, the next part of the couplet tells us, and hold back those stumbling to the slaughter. We are to help them. We're to help them. Now, we can't make someone do anything. We can give them the best advice that there is. We can tell them, you have a serious problem you've got to overcome. Let me tell you how you can overcome it, or I know who can help you overcome it. Or many have done it. Many have been where you are, and they corrected themselves. But you can't make them do anything. You can't make them do right. We're not made that way. All right? We can help them from them harming themselves, but they're going to have to be in the decision that they want to change as well. In Ezekiel chapter 3, beginning in verse 18 and also 21, and it's not the only place in Ezekiel where this is said, but Ezekiel is called a watchman. And God says, if there is a wicked man, and I tell you to talk to the wicked man, to turn him from his wicked way, to warn him. If I tell you to do that, and you don't warn him, he's going to die in his sins, but his blood, I'm going to require at your hands. Because I told you to warn him. I told you to do it. And you wouldn't do it. Now, if I tell you to warn him, you warn him, and he doesn't take the warning, he dies in his sins, but you're okay. All right, you've done the job I told you to do. His blood is not on your hands because you have in fact obeyed him. You have done this to him or for him. All right, so here is someone who is stumbling to the slaughter. All right, now Proverbs, all of Proverbs actually tries to do this to prepare us for every trap, for every adversity, for every kind of temptation that may come our way. It is trying to prepare us to make the wise decisions always. And wisdom is where you know something to be true and you use it, knowing it's true. When you have something that is, you have been taught, this is what you need to do, and you do it, that is wisdom. Foolishness is when you have been taught, this is what you need to do. You've got the knowledge, but you don't do it. All right, because of desires and temptations, because of whatever. It hardly matters. All of it is foolishness, and it's taking what you know and just disregarding it and doing what you're going to do anyway. And there are consequences as described. So Proverbs actually is teaching for all of this. So we see that stumbling to the slaughter tells us what drawn toward death means, and it is sin. Someone who is sinning, and they need to be brought out of that. It has taken hold of them. Now, each and every one of us sins every day, one way or another. And for that, we need the mercy of God. But that does not necessarily mean that that is something we're trapped in. It doesn't necessarily mean that. Someone who's trapped in it, it would be things that we can easily step away from and easily confess, yeah, that was the wrong thing to do. I'm very sorry that I did that. And it's not as though it is some sort of deep trap, and you've just been caught in it and never to get out. But it's things that you can easily step away from. Now, there are things that are out in the world of sin of where it's not so easy to step out of them because they trap you. They are terrible traps. They are snares that have been set out there, and they are far more difficult to get out of. But God gives strength. He will do it. And these are things that people can, it becomes part of their life, it becomes part of them, and they just can't step away from it. They can't do it. And here is something where truly they are drawn toward death. Deliver those who are drawn toward death. Now, verse 12. If you say, surely we did not know this. All right, now, one could think this as being separate, 12 as being separate from 11. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It's teaching the same thing. If you say, surely we did not know this, does not he who weighs the hearts consider it? He who keeps your soul, does he not know it? And will he not render to each man according to his deeds? Now, we can go back to Deuteronomy chapter 22, verses 1 through 4. And there's more than just those in the book of Deuteronomy, more than just those verses. But it's where you see your neighbor needs your help, one way or another. Your neighbor needs your help. Can't do it alone. You see it, you could do it, but you don't. You pretend that you didn't know. Well, God knows that you did know. He knows it. And surely we did not know this. Well, He knows whether you knew it or not. He knows it. He weighs the hearts and He considers it. And you cannot claim ignorance when God knows everything. If you were ignorant, then you're ignorant. If you didn't know, then you didn't know, and you'd be guiltless of it. But if you did know, then you will be. He will render to each man according to his deeds. That's what He's going to do. All right, now we come to verse 13. 13 and 14 go together, and they have to. All right, 13. One could just have 13 as standing alone, and it comes off as rather strange. It's my son, eat honey because it is good, and the honeycomb which is sweet to your taste. All right, now we could try to look for a greater meaning in that, and there's no problem with trying to do that. There's no problem with that. But we have the verse 14, so shall the knowledge of wisdom be to your soul if you have found it. There is prospect, and your hope will not be cut off. So we could just have 13 stand alone and just think of honey as not literal something you eat, but as being wisdom. We could come to that conclusion, and it'd be a good conclusion to come to. But He's not just saying, have you tried honey yet? Honey's pretty good. I think you're going to like it, and eat it. And we also, honey is going to be used through the book of Proverbs in a number of ways. And later on in the book, I got to get to 25 and verse 16, it uses honey in the subject or in the idea of overindulgence. That if you found something that you really love, be careful and don't go headlong into it. Don't overindulge in it, whatever it is. All right. Nothing wrong with the idea of something that you love. Depends on what it is, if you can rightfully have it or not. But not to overindulge in it. But in this case, here is like with Proverbs 16:24, pleasant words are like honeycomb. But this is knowledge and wisdom will be to your soul. They'll be to your soul. Let me see if I can find it. I think it's in Ezekiel chapter 3. No. Yes, Ezekiel chapter 3. Ezekiel is given a scroll. There's a hand that hands him a scroll. And the scroll is written on the inside and on the outside. And what is Ezekiel told to do with that scroll? There's woe and lamentation. There's lamentation and mourning written on it. What is Ezekiel told to do with that scroll? Eat it. He's told to eat it. Well, this is a vision. All right, it would be impossible to eat it'd be very difficult to eat a scroll. But he eats it. And it is like, its taste is like honey. Now, we go forward to Revelation chapter 10. And there is a large angel who holds a little book. And John is told to do what with that book? The same thing. He's told to eat it, to eat the book. And what is amusing to me in Revelation chapter 10 is that John tells this huge angel, give me the book. I mean, it's just, to me, it's just amusing that a human being is telling an angel to do anything. All right, especially this huge one. And give me the book. And so the angel gives me the book, and he eats the book, and it's like honey in his mouth, but his stomach becomes bitter. Now with Ezekiel, that didn't happen. So, but all of this is actually teaching the same thing. taking the Word of God and consuming it. Taking the Word of God, and this is your life. Your life is hanging on these words. These words can help you. Why ignore them? All right? If you were given a medication by a doctor, and it was true, if you didn't take this medication, you would die. All right? Would you take the time to take that medication? Well, hopefully you would anyway. Hopefully you would. But when it comes to the Word of God, this is life. This is what gives you everything you need through every kind of adversity, through every kind of war, through every kind of trial. Here it is. And he says it is sweet as honey. Well, that is wisdom. And wisdom does have that quality about it, that we can rise above. We can do the best things. Not just better, but the best. And do better even still. And here is it, love it like eating honey. Love it as though it is like treasure, because it's greater than any treasure of this earth. It's the most powerful thing that you can have on this earth, that exists on this earth. It is the most powerful thing, and that is the Word of God. And John consumed it and then prophesied. Ezekiel consumed it and prophesied. And we are to consume it as well. It is intended for us. We use it one way or another, and we grow into someone that God would want us to be, that we were intended to be. Well, we've run out of time, and we will continue next week, and I want to thank everybody for being with us.